Hi guys, thanks for joining me for the big Spring Clean 2021. I'm excited to be here with you. Let me just start my camera up and let's stop my share. And then I can come and say hi. Yes. Hi guys. Really excited. Big Spring Clean. Yes, it's that time of year where we get to do our spring cleaning. And the weather is good enough that we can open the windows and take a bit of advantage of like that extra sunlight in the day. Okay, so just to get us started on our spring cleaning. Spring cleaning, the idea came around in the early 1800s. And basically everyone spent their winter in the home. In some homes, well, mainly in the 1800s, they would have had fires inside the house. So once it comes to springtime, it's an opportunity to clear everybody outside and to really, get to grips with the soot and the dust that's collected over the winter. So that's what we still do today. It's just about freshening up our lives and also decluttering. It's a good opportunity to declutter. I know for some people it's, we love it. And then there's other people who don't enjoy it so much. I don't know if it's the activity that they don't enjoy, more so the idea of the activity. And, you have to sacrifice one thing for another. So you will find yourself saying, right, well, tonight I would have just watched television, but I'm actually going to do my dusting and hoovering. And when I talk about dusting and hoovering in the big spring clean, the aim is to actually, if you can, find some places that you don't usually go, that are usually we'll just save that for big occasions, This is your big occasion. This is your week where you can really push the boat out and clear the furniture back, hoover under everything. Okay, so I thought we're not going to make these particularly long videos. I'm going to put one out every single day for the next 5 days. And they're just going to be looking at different areas of the house, a few little facts, and then a few little tips. So, tips for today. First of all, we're going to be talking about dust. So then we're going to be talking about tackling dust. Fact number 1, dust is combinational. So what it is, so you've got your household dust and then you've got your personal, what you create. So with humans, we have so it's skin cells. It can be hair, lint, dust mites. If you have pets as well. So you've got all of these things combining together to create dust in the home. And in theory, that's, actually, let me come on to that in a minute because I'm going to talk about something else. So, but the point is, it is combinational. So we do need to think about, do we really, is it healthy to remove it? Because we're going to accumulate more. So if you come back to an area in 2 or 3 years' time, you'll be absolutely stunned by the accumulation. Because even just being in one room, you're still, spreading your joy and creating dust everywhere. So here's an exciting fact about dust on that note. So per week, each human sheds approximately 1/3 of an ounce of dust. Now, I actually read an article and it said that that's approximately the weight of a car key. So that might sound okay, 1 week, 1 car key. But within a year, scientists approximate that the average household create 40 pounds of dust, household dust. Or, well, no, actually, sorry, we're not talking about household dust, we're talking about dead skin cells. So the human, the family or the group that you live with combined £40 worth of dust. So if you think about, you know, if you haven't cleaned something for a few years, I mean, I actually get quite surprised sometimes. I do, because, for example, I have the racks for my shoes. So that I used to have a lot of shoes that were on the floor. And so what I did is I bought these 2 shoe racks and stacked them. And what happens is, you know, so you don't really, it's not likely that you're going to want to regularly take all your shoes out, clean it, put it all back together, because there's got to be about 24 pairs of shoes, something like that, maybe more, in these combined shoe rack. But I do it approximately once a year. And I remember last time I went over to it was last year, and I was like, wow. But then I thought about it, because of COVID, we've all been at home a lot more. So of course we're producing a lot more dust. So if you've noticed a higher accumulation of dust, you know, in your bedrooms or your living room, it's just because we're here more. So this is the perfect year, 2021, to get your dusting going. The final point I'm going to make about dust before we move on to some tips is that dust is, the problem with it is it doesn't sit still, so it's not static. So if it was static, it wouldn't cause so much irritation to people with allergens. But if you're someone who's got allergens and you go into a dusty property, not only do you see the dust settled, but as soon as there's a breeze or something, like, you know, people moving past, or someone picks up one item and does that, we've all seen it, and you see a beam of sunlight shining through the window, and it's just like the air is in chaos with all these little bits of dust. You know, if you're someone with an allergy, that can make it really challenging to breathe. And then once you get into coughing and things start to tighten up inside, it's just like, you know, I'm not someone who personally has a big issue, you know, a big problem with dust when I come into contact with it. So I do get a bit of hay fever. So, you know, it's not pleasant, but at the same time, you know, it's not the same as people who have, you know, some really, you know, my hay fever is mild. You know, I've had people in my family who've had hay fever, which is so intense they need to go to the hospital. So, you know, you have to think about, you know, members of the family, for example, who have these conditions, especially if you've got pets. Generally, you know, it's challenging for people with allergens to live with pets, or maybe, you know, you can get hypoallergenic cats, for example, so you can find a way around it. But that's the point. If the dust was static, it wouldn't be so much of a problem, but because it's always, you know, it's traveling, and then as soon as it settles, and they say it can take up to 5 days for it to settle, in that time you've created more. So that is something to think about. I had a little fact about that. Oh yes, so if you really want to get into the science of household chemicals and dust, and it may sound, you know, you're like, oh, I don't know. It's actually fascinating. It's really fascinating to think about all the different chemicals and different materials that are in our home. So I actually made a note on my little silver book. Let me find the title for you. So it's my little silver planner. It's always good to have a planner, so I know each day what I'm going to do, and then I have to literally turn around to my list and say, no, I don't want to. Whereas if I follow my list, it's like, okay, I'm doing this day. It's a lot more efficient if you don't question the list and you just do what you wrote, because you can tick it off and then you can look around and you'll be amazed. But this is what I was looking into. So the chemistry of household dust. So those are the scientists who will be looking into these kind of things. And I was looking at chlorinated paraffins and the dust molecules. So you can see all the different types of dust molecules. And yeah, it's absolutely worth having a look if you want to get further into this. Okay, well, I think let's move on to dusting. So let's do a few tips with dust. A couple of these are going to be, oh, I knew that already. And a couple, you know, it's just kind of reminding ourselves. Okay, Okay, so dusting. First of all, when we're dusting anything, okay, I know, I'm going to dust the table. Okay, so on this table, let's move the chair over here. Okay, so on this table, we have a little ornament here. So the best thing to do is dust the ornament off first. Then we're going to do the table. Okay, so that's done. Now, any dust that we've moved has gone to the carpet. So when we come to hoovering, perfect. Whereas we don't want to go back dusting and then, you know, when we've already hoovered, because we're basically creating more dust flow. See, I told you a couple of these might be quite straightforward, but sometimes we don't think, we're in a rush and we're like, come on, let's just do it. So I just like to, you know, refresh. Okay, the next thing I'm going to say is these lint cloths. These lint cloths are fantastic. Okay, so we can use them on monitors, all sorts of things. People have asked me about, you know, is there anything you can do when you get, you know, when you clean something and then you just see the dust layers come back? People do talk about using fabric softener. Now, I'm not going to advise you what you use that for. Absolutely, though, I have found it useful for dust. But what I would point out, and this is the arts person in me here, we have to be very careful about surfaces. So what I can put on a marble surface is not necessarily what I can put on my wooden furniture. So we do need to think about, you know, what materials we're working with and how these should be treated. And so, but I tell you what's really useful actually. You have the sheets that you put in the tumble dryer. They're also quite useful for dusting and kind of giving that little layer of protection from the new layer of dust settling immediately. Okay, so let me think. Do I want to say anything else about dusting? Oh yeah, here's one I'm sure you all know. But if you're dusting rugs, for example, so I've got a rug down here. Okay, so if I was dusting this, first of all, I mean, I hoover it a lot, but when we're doing our spring cleaning, we want to go that extra mile. So I would make sure I took that outside and beat that outside, or, you know, beat it, but, you know, hit it, and got the dust out in the garden because it's efficient. Or if you know, wherever you are, if you've got the garden, if you've got an outside area and you're not going to upset any neighbours or communal area, then it is good to go and shake these things out outside. So, you know, that's one less job for you. So that would also apply to, well, any kind of fabrics. You know, I've got a throw over here on the chair. So I'd shake that out outside, maybe air it outside in the line. So I think that's dusting. So we've got that. Now, whoops, just kicking over my trusty liquid. It's always good to have a spray bottle, really useful. So sometimes when these actually run out, I do keep them. And then I can make my own concoctions, because while I do buy some of the products at the shops, absolutely, I don't like to have loads of different chemicals. So sometimes I will actually mix up something that's more of a, you know, homemade type product. But, you know, that's just, again, just because it's gentle. And, you know, so if I'm working on something and I don't want an abrasive material, sometimes I'll even just use washing up liquid and hot water. And then if it requires shining afterwards, I'll buffer it afterwards. But I do like to keep it simple. So these are quite handy, actually. Okay, so hoovering. Got my hoover. Not going to turn my hoover on, don't worry, guys. I'm just going to demonstrate how I hoover, because I talk a lot about home fit combos. So I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Okay, tip number 1, hoover after dusting. So we've covered that. Okay, so also, you know, by then hopefully some of it will have settled on the floor. You know, if you're just dusting and then hoovering, you're still going to get more settling. So just give it a few minutes before you like launch in. Hoovering. Let me think. That was it. Yes. See, I'm trying to remember everything in my head. So, and it's all there. It's just, you know. Okay, so hoovering. We should be hoovering our wooden flooring and our hard flooring approximately once a week. In terms of carpet, we should be hoovering it definitely once a week. More with in some cases, it might be more likely 2 times a week. I think on top of that, you know, we don't necessarily need to hoover the whole house. So we're not talking about that, you know, definitely on your once a week, you really need to be, you know, fairly thorough. You do want to get rid of all that key weight of dust, don't you? Of human dust, that's not even combinational dust. So I don't want anyone to go around going, oh no, don't want to touch the dust, but you know, it is important not to, you know, be surrounded by it. So with the Hoover, yeah, so with the carpets, we'd say once a week a good Hoover, but then also if you keep an eye on where your kind of like your traffic lanes are, where people are coming in and out of rooms, it might require a bit more around those areas. I would say, but now it's spring cleaning time, say your usual big Hoover involves going up to this line where the sofa is. Why don't we do this week, or if you're at work, this weekend, why don't we do the big Hoover, where we pull that chair out, move it over there, do the skirting board, do the whole thing. If you prefer, you know, because I'm on a wooden floor myself, so I'd probably sweep the wooden floor and then do the finishing up with the Hoover. So, guys, here's my final tip for you with the Hoover. Let's do it. There we go. So what's a home fit combo? I hear you ask. A home fit combo. So I'm a lifestyle and fitness instructor. So I like to kind of combine my decluttering and organising and my motivation mindset with exercise. And it also means if you're thinking, oh no, I can't do the big spring clean this week, I've got to go to the gym. Actually, if you're in London, the gyms aren't open, so no excuse. But for example, if you were thinking, no, I've got to do exercise, this is great exercise. Hoovering is fantastic because not all Hoovers, but some of them have a bit of weight. You're doing this with your arms, so you're getting that arm action, and I recommend that you switch over. But one of my favourite things is that you can do the lunges. So some people have said to me, well, I don't mind hoovering, but look, I'm like that. I'm like that all the time. And I'm like, you don't want to be rounded like that. Not if you're going to be doing it for a long amount of time. You know, if you've got a whole, you know, quite a few spaces to do. So I say we should do the lunge. So when I hoover, go forward with the arm like that, and I lunge down like this. And then back on my supporting leg, and then lunge, and then back. Okay, so when I'm doing it, I lunge and my back is still straight. Instead of being like this, I'm like this. And so it actually means I'm getting a good workout and I'm not affecting my posture. So again, like this, or you can step back, lunge. And you don't have to do it on every one. You know, if you're someone who's going to do the step back, I wouldn't recommend doing that for too long. You'll probably, you know, you'll be at it for ages. But what I do recommend is going into the lunge position, doing the area around you, and then stepping back, more lunge. Okay, and you've got balance as well. You've got the core balance, nice and straight. Okay, so I always like to turn it into a bit of a workout because then it's got more benefits than one. So I can't argue with that. So guys, I'll leave you there. I'll leave you with those few tips. And I look forward to seeing you next time. So I'll be here again tomorrow. And I will be talking about date rotation in the kitchen. I'll also be talking about some of the different wrappings that we put, that the foods, you know, come in. So the tins, we've got the, you know, plastics, and I'll be looking at frozen foods, how long we should keep them. So yeah, so we're going to do that. And I know some people will think, oh, date rotation, I know how to do that. The question is, have you done your date rotation? Okay, so, and I'll have some tips for that as well, you know, so if it's not your favorite job, I'm sure we can get enthusiastic about it. Okay, guys, good luck with your dusting, hoovering. Start with your dusting, finishing up with your hoovering. Definitely should be hoovering once a week, dusting regularly. And this week we're going to go for it. We're going to do the big jobs, and so that next week we can sit back in a lovely, fresh home. Thank you so much, guys, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.